The stock market is ripping higher. We've seen a big turnaround over the last couple of days. Obviously, the market reacting positively to what it deemed to be a de-escalation of certain tail risks. We're now seeing the market really start to turn around and pretty much follow my path to move higher over the next few days and weeks. I'm going to jump into the charts very shortly and break down what I exactly see over the next few days and weeks, and also what my game plan is going to be. Plus, I'm going to cover some stocks that I'm interested in buying right now at today's levels. I did share some stocks last week, so I'm going to update on those ones. Plus, I'm going to provide you with some new ones that I do like and I have been picking up today. So let's jump into it. So here we have the daily chart of the S&P, and as you can see, we had broken down through this uptrending support line, and we are now coming in. It looks like at some point we probably will back test, but what we are actually coming into now is this horizontal level, and this was the all-time high from back in October of last year. We retested it and rejected in December, in the first part of December, before breaching it later on in December, and then actually breaching it earlier on this month, only to reject and see this diversion below it. So what I actually want to see here is for price to actually close back above this level. The level is 6926.98 to be exact. And if we can get that closure above, I want to see acceleration to the upside. Like I say, I am still expecting higher prices for the S&P index over the first quarter of this month, potentially going into April. And I do think in Q2, that is when we will likely see some sort of correction. But up until then, I expect the market to start to price in the new Fed chair coming in and cutting rates more aggressively than what the market is currently anticipating. I'm also expecting the economy to stay strong, so recession risks to remain low, and I'm expecting inflation to stay anchored. Currently, we are seeing inflation starting to level out and at least not be trending aggressively higher, probably helped by an oil price that has come down a lot over the last few months, and also the fact that we haven't really seen the impact on inflation that tariffs potentially could have sort of provided. So there seems to be a few things to be fairly optimistic about. And I do think we will see the market push on. The Nasdaq, you can see very similar here, starting to break out back above its descending trend line. Obviously, we've lost the ascending trend line, but I do think at some point the market can get back above this, or maybe start to climb up into this trend line and push high. And really, the level I'm looking at for the Nasdaq to break out is this 25813 level. Once we get above there, we really should start to accelerate and attack all-time highs. And like I say, I think the Nasdaq probably makes new all-time highs before the end of the quarter. And more importantly, before we see a significant pullback, I don't think the market will see a significant correction from these prices. I do think it will make a run to new all-time highs first, and then probably later on into Q2, we will probably see that significant pullback for the reasons I've already mentioned. So I'm going to jump into a few stocks now and look at some stocks that we covered on the last video, give an update on those, and also I'm going to cover a few new ones as well. So Tesla is one of those stocks that I covered on my last video. I think it was the main stock number one. And I did say if we come down into the support anywhere in this yellow box, I would have been interested in DCAing into Tesla for a move higher and a potential run back towards 500. And we are seeing the market start to react and bounce over the last couple of days. So this is really encouraging to see. Obviously, we have these ascending trend lines in play, which are starting to come in and support the price. We also have a trend line down here as well at around about 400. I think that would be the maximum we would look to go to on the downside if we did actually start to break down on Tesla. So Tesla's one I really like here, and I do think we can push up at least up to around about this level, around about 470. If I just throw on the Fibonacci retracement here, you can see 470 would be around about our 618. Potentially, I'll be looking for a rejection at that level around about sort of 465 to 470, and maybe at that point we look to do something a little bit like this. So we come up here and we just sort of grind through and consolidate before eventually sort of breaking out later on. Obviously, that might then run into this broader correction we see in the markets and maybe back testing some of these prices. So I don't think necessarily we need to chase Tesla here. Obviously, congratulations if you did pick some up at these prices. I know I did. Obviously, alternatively, we could sort of come back into this box and hug this trend line. Obviously, I wouldn't want to see us hug that too tightly because more touches will make that trend line weaker. But potentially, we could do something like this. We might get one more opportunity to buy, putting in a higher low here. So I do like picking up Tesla around these levels. Obviously, if 400 is lost, then we will look for targets lower down, and I would look to actually come out of any position there. Certainly for the short term. Longer term DCAs, I would just look to probably DCA more into that one. So that's Tesla. The other stock I talked about on my last video was Meta. So Meta also is coming in, or has come in, to that buy zone that I talked about, into this longer term trend line. You can see this trend line is going back all the way to November 2022. We've come into it. Obviously, I don't want to see us spend too long around here. And I am encouraged by the fact that price has started to bounce out of this level, running up to 645 today. Obviously was down around 600 when we came into this support. So yeah, what I'm really looking to see now on Meta is maybe one more retrace, maybe closing this gap. We'll see how price action develops over the next few days, but I do like Meta here. Similar to Tesla, I'm thinking to myself, this could run higher into the end of Q1. Maybe we retrace in Q2 along with the rest of the market, and then eventually later on this year, I think we will see a move higher, probably to new all-time highs in Meta. Obviously, valuations on Meta are really good for me at the moment. I think they're trading at a P of around about 20 on a stock like this is very, very cheap. So I do think Meta can have a good year and can definitely recover from here and make an upside move later on this year. So SMCI was one of the stocks I shared on the last video as well. And you can see I said anywhere within this box, I'm looking to get into this, and dollar cost average, we have come into here, coming as low as 27.8, starting to bounce. And if you just look at the longer term setup on SMCI, you can see that we've got this descending trend line. At some point, I do think we will likely run into this and break through. Initial targets up to around about $62. Maybe we pull back in Q2 from that level, and then we sort of rally onto higher prices in towards the end of the year. Obviously, good sort of AI pick, AI exposure with SMCI being another chip maker, and I don't think the AI run is over yet. And to me, at these price levels, seems like an absolute steal for SMCI. So yeah, this looks like it's playing out pretty much as expected so far. It's good to see some life coming into these stocks. And like I say, maybe there'll be one more dip before looking to sort of mark up a bit more on SMCI. So I've got my watch list up now, and I want to run through some new ones I haven't mentioned. The first of those is going to be Oklo. So this is really a play on the whole sort of nuclear space and the energy space. Donald Trump did mention this in his speech yesterday at Davos, and I do think there is an opportunity here with it being so far down off its all-time high. You can see the all-time high coming in October of last year. We're currently over 50% down off that. The only thing that is giving me a little bit of hesitation at these levels, even though I have picked some up at these levels, is that we do have this gap here. Potentially the price might come down to fill that gap, retest our support one more time, and then start to mark up higher. Obviously, if it gets through this high here at around about 115, we can see that would be a structure shift, and we'd be back to bullish with an uptrend and potentially running higher into the end of the year. and back towards $200 on Oklo. So that is one I really like here. SMR I spoke about yesterday on the last video, should I say. So I thought we might close this gap. It looks like we are bouncing from here. And if we start to get above $22.50, personally, I think this gap might be left behind and we might just start to run up without filling it. So look, I think because of the upside on this, I'm happy to pick some up at these levels. Obviously, ideally, I'd prefer to buy closer to $16, but that might not happen. So obviously, a lot of the picks I mentioned in the last video already starting to get a move on. If I just go down my watch list, then I saw it a minute ago. Another one I like here is Zscaler. So this is obviously within the software space, but it's also really in the cybersecurity space. As you can see, they've been beating earnings every time. I think we could get a little move lower into this trend line and then look to push on higher later on in the year. So Zscaler is one I like here as well. MP Materials also linked to the current administration. I fail to see how this doesn't go higher later on this year. Very, very strong looking chart here. Just a little bit difficult to currently get an entry on this. And scrolling down, I like Marvel as well. Marvel is one that I've been happy to pick up around these levels. Maybe we come into this trend line for a final test, but I do think we will push away soon and Marvel will go back to sort of all-time highs later on this year. LAC, so Lithium Americas Corp. Obviously, this seems to be the administration of raw materials and minerals being onshore to the USA. So I would expect LAC to really start to take off soon, and I can see us probably testing these highs before attempting to push on higher, potentially going as high as all-time highs later on in the year. I think this setup is a really nice setup because obviously you've got this sort of like this cup and handle starting to form here, where potentially this could be the handle to this sort of greater cup. So let's see if we get that pattern developing, but it looks fully bottomed out and it looks like it's ready to make another attempt higher. USAR is one I like as well. For full disclosure, I do hold. We filled this gap that we had on the way down here. I'm waiting to see if we get some sort of retracement from these prices to get a long trade in, maybe around about sort of $19-20. So yeah, not adding to positions here, but obviously any move down sub $20, I think will be an absolute buy on USAR. One I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in the last video, is Rich Tech Robotics. So I'm expecting Rich Tech to take off and come up to this trend line at some point and maybe even popping through it, but one step at a time. I do think that move likely happens. Obviously, we're getting a good reaction. It was when did I do my last video? I think it was maybe Thursday of last week, or sorry, not Thursday of last week. It was definitely at the end of last week. So yeah, I mean, price is up fairly nicely since then. I think about a 20% move on Rich Tech. So that is another one I like. And just looking down my list, I will give an update on Oxy as well, because I talked about Occidental Petroleum, the fact that in the long run, I think we probably come up to this descending trend line. Not a lot has changed here. Obviously, as I said in my last video, it's a bit more of a slow mover. It's probably going to take a little bit time to get here. It might not get here until later on in the year, but obviously if the oil price performs well, and I'm still bullish on oil, I do think Oxy could have a really good year and look to make its way back to its trend line, potentially breaking through it and running up to certainly multi-year highs, should we say. I think a nice target for this would be around sort of $70 to $80, potentially getting close to the 2x from these prices. And there should probably be a mention about Nike as well. Nike, this descending trend line we've got here, at some point, I do think this trend line breaks and we can see a move higher for Nike, probably towards this cluster here around about sort of the 128 to 130 level. If we actually go from the all-time highs to the lows, that actually comes in with our 618 Fibonacci retracement. So that is definitely a trade that I am eyeing up. I've started to build a position already, and I do think Nike could be a great performer if it breaks this trend line. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any value from this video, please do smash the like and subscribe, because I'll be coming out with plenty more videos around stocks, shares. Obviously, I'll cover cryptos. I'll be coming up with more lists in terms of stock picks. So stay tuned for those. And also, if there's any stock you do want me to review or analyze, please do drop it in the comments below and I can cover that on one of my future videos. Thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you all on the next one.